I was working with a coach. I was going to a Reiki practitioner, and she said something to me that completely changed my life. She said, Mary, you don't love yourself. And my ego like fired up. I said, what do you mean I don't love myself? What do you mean I have to work on self-love? I do love myself. I am confident. And for me, it really triggered me because I got to this place where, I'm thinking I'm working on myself and was getting ready to prepare to dive deeper into this healing work, but I wasn't quite ready because my ego was in the way. I was saying, no, I do love myself. And I was still so much in my own way and wasn't fully seeing, hey, let's go begin this healing process. Let's go begin this path.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about helping individuals unlock their true potential. I'm delighted to welcome Mary McMonagle. Mary is an intuitive healer, coach, podcast host, and the founder of True Vibe. You can reach Mary at her website, and I'll include the link in the show notes. Welcome, Mary. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. And I really enjoyed checking out your podcast. I enjoyed checking out your website. And there were some statements there that just really resonated with me. And it brings up some parts and aspects of healing that not everybody thinks about. And it talked about how healing work, deep healing work, is not for everyone. It's for the courageous soul who is ready to let go. And I'd love to talk about that for a minute, because I have noticed that we cannot heal without our consent. And we have to want it. We have to have a desire. And it sounds so strange because everyone who is suffering is thinking, of course I want to feel better. Of course I don't want to feel like this. And it's true. But we also have a very strong tendency that we want to stay the same.
Yeah.
Because where we are is familiar, and familiarity feels safe. So even if I'm totally miserable, at least I know what this miserable feels like. And if I do something different, it might be something that I'm not familiar with, and it's scary.
Yeah.
And I also loved when you talked about that real healing comes from letting go. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that as well. So let's talk about that a little bit. What have you noticed with maybe some of your clients or some of your friends who maybe haven't reached that tipping point, or maybe someone who has made it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love this start, Linda. It makes me think. So, first off, think of your favorite movie and you go to a friend and you're like, oh my gosh, this movie was so good. You have to watch this movie. You have to, you have to, you have to. And you finally convince them to watch it. And they're like, Linda, Mary, this movie was not that good. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And you're like, oh, come on. It's so good. And that's kind of this healing journey, especially when you're first starting out, because you start to notice the shifts within yourself. So then maybe you are going to other people and you're saying, oh my gosh, trust me, like you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. And people stay where they're at. And you mentioned a great point, Linda, where it's we have to change and we have to let go and start to change. So now for me, where I hit that point myself. So anything that I usually say or put out there, it's because it's always because I've lived it and experienced it. And I got to a point where I was working with a coach. I was going to a Reiki practitioner, and she said something to me that completely changed my life. She said, Mary, you don't love yourself. And my ego like fired up. I said, what do you mean I don't love myself? What do you mean I have to work on self-love? I do love myself. I am confident. And for me, it really triggered me because I got to this place where, I'm thinking I'm working on myself. And why I share this story is because it took me to get to that moment of realization that Oh, I was kind of just easing on through and was getting ready to prepare to dive deeper into this healing work, but I wasn't quite ready because my ego was in the way. I was saying, "No, I do love myself. I am abundant. I am confident," telling myself all these mantras, and I was still so much in my own way and really wasn't fully seeing, hey, let's go begin this healing process. Let's go begin this path. And that pathway is starting to view things from a different perspective. So maybe you rewatch that movie that your friend recommended and you're like, actually, I kind of get the point. I kind of see what you're saying. So I say it really is not for everyone, and you will be led and guided, but it's going to be your decision to go. Those signs were flashing in my face when my Reiki practitioner for me was saying, you need to learn to love yourself more. And my ego fired up. That was the wall, and that healing work at that time was not meant for me, but it started to plant seeds. And then I chose to view it from a different perspective. So that's kind of where I have seen that's kind of where that what birthed from that phrase of healing work is not for everyone.
Right. That was so beautiful. And I appreciate that you brought in your personal story because I think for most of us who are in this journey of really inviting people to heal, we are, like you gave that analogy, we're the people who've watched the movie. We lived the movie. We are the movie. We've
Yes.
been here. We've been through this journey. We understand what it's like before and we understand what it's like after. And so that's why we're so passionate about what we do because we know it makes a difference. And so I appreciate that you mentioned you're in it because it matters to you personally. And I loved that idea of being kind of called to the carpet and it's painful. I remember when I was called to the carpet and I hated it. I thought,
Yeah.
it feels like you're telling me that everything in the world is my fault. And I don't like hearing it. And so
Mhm.
it's painful. So I would love to talk a little bit more about self-love and what you thought it meant and maybe what you think it
Mhm.
means now.
Oh,
Because I think a lot of people, you say, do you love yourself? And most people say, well, yeah, of course I do. And some honest people will say, no, I don't. But what does that mean?
I love that. Yeah, and before I dive into that too, I want to add on to what you shared there because it can be, I think healing work is it's truly calling for the brave because you are confronted by all of your triggers, all of your insecurities, but in the most magical, beautiful way. And so for me, well, that part of my life and where I'm saying I do love myself. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And I trusted my Reiki practitioner, and I could sense that like it was the ego, but that's where we can start to control. And but at that phase in my life, Linda, I was struggling. I was the woman where you would walk, I would could be anywhere, and oh, there's Mary. She's so happy and positive and happy go lucky, and she works really hard and she's successful. But on the inside, I felt like a desert. I felt so dry inside. I felt that I really was hiding. And at that phase of my life, I was going through, I was still struggling with my eating disorder at that time. And I was starting to talk to more people about that. But I was still really trying to, on the outside, project, oh, this is me. I'm happy. I'm positive. I'm here to help. But I wasn't helping myself. And that saying, put your mask on first before helping others is so true. And I lead in with that because to me, that really is what self-love is willing. There's a few things here which I work on with my clients, which are big, which is number one of being vulnerable, being able to, for me, I was so closed off. I was so guarded because I didn't want to be viewed a certain way. And so I was scared of what people thought of me. And when you step into being vulnerable, you step into opening up your heart a little bit, then you get to really see how much is waiting for you, but you are in your own way. And so Self-love for me is to truly put your mask on in that way and starting to peel back some of those layers, peel back some of those walls because it is a journey and that's the whole healing process. So yeah, self-love for me is to kind of tie it all together. It really is. I was just talking with a client today because she was really frustrated. And I said, okay, that's beautiful. Like, because she was trying, and she's an avoidant attachment where she tends to avoid. And as I'm very similar, I have a similar pattern myself, so I can see it really clear. And I said, let's sit in this frustration. And she's like, well, I don't want to because I hate when I'm frustrated. I hate that. And I said, look at your languaging, right? What would it take for you to love yourself even through the frustration? And that's true self-love, because one of the things that I always say is life isn't all good vibes. We have our highs, we have our lows, but when you can connect to who you truly are on a vibrational level, that's when you can really truly tap into that self-love.
Mm, that's beautiful. And you brought up a lot of wonderful things that we can kind of shoot off on. But let's stick to self-love for just a minute. I think that that was lovely when you gave that advice of, I hate feeling frustrated. And it's, can you love yourself even in that place? And I
Yes.
think part of it has to do with accepting ourselves,
Mm,
including our flaws. I had a friend describe it this way. She said, self-esteem is when you know that you have something to bring to the table. It's like, I am good at this, I am good at this, and I can do this. She says, self-love is when you know you have value when you are doing nothing. And I
yeah.
thought, oh, isn't that interesting? It's not just my talents. It's not just that I can do something well. It's just I am.
Mm,
And I can accept myself that I am. And I have value right here, right now, even if I'm not working on a to-do list or producing something or accomplishing something, that we just are. And that includes giving ourselves credit for when we do things well and having compassion for ourselves when we don't do things well, and
yes.
just saying, you know what? It's okay. I don't have to be perfect before
Hmm.
I am good enough to love myself. And that's a really big deal, because I think another thing is kind of an imposter syndrome where we
Yeah.
think, you know what? I know who I really am. And if I let Mary see me, like the real me, she won't like me. And what's
Mm,
worse is I know she's right, because the real me isn't lovable, isn't likable, isn't good enough, isn't whatever. And so I think that that inconsistency you mentioned before, we look happy on the outside and we're a desert on the inside, is
mm,
because we feel like maybe the real us is not that great. And
mm.
so to learn how to say, you know what, I love myself and I'm okay. So let's talk a little bit about, so healing to get to that place where I think, you know what, if you knew the real me, you wouldn't like me that much. So how, if I'm in that place, where did that come from? And
Mm.
how do I let it go? I don't have
Yeah.
to prove it. I have to let it go.
Yes. Oh, I love this. Okay, so first, I would feel called to share one of my favorite quotes, which is, I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. And so, meaning that you're not everyone is going to like your true authentic self. So that's where, Linda, you asked about the healing journey to get there. And when you take a moment to put yourself first, when you say, one of the things that I tell myself is, I'm the star of my own movie. And if I am going to really get upset about, maybe I share something that I've been afraid to share for a very long time. And for example, I'll throw out an example. When I started to really get into this healing work and sharing it with friends and family members, one of my family members called me right away and said, Mary, what you're doing is witchcraft. You need to stop. Yeah. And was firing at me. And in that moment, thankfully I was in a really grounded place within myself. And I didn't take it personally, but I think if I was to take it personally in that moment, and if you are taking something so personally where it's dictating your emotions. So if that person put me, because if that person said, "Hey, I don't approve of you. I don't approve of what you're doing." And how would that feel? If you're taking that personally, you're going to say, "Whoa, oh my gosh, that person doesn't approve of me, so I shouldn't approve of me." And but I want you, if you're listening to this, I want you to really see how much emotion that we give to people, and that emotion is power. So if that person said, that family member said to me, "This is witchcraft," and I said, "Oh my God, I can never do this again." Look how much power I'm giving that person, because I'm allowing that person to dictate my emotions and I'm allowing that person to dictate me. So starting there is to start to notice where you're giving people power over you. And you are so unique. I love, Linda, how you mentioned imposter syndrome, because we can feel like an imposter at times, but that's designed with purpose, with intention, because we're all so unique and so different. So starting to really notice where you're giving away power, where you're allowing other people to dictate your emotions, and putting yourself, so then being able to really believe you are the star of your movie, and you're so in control of your emotions, you're so in control of who you are, and how you see yourself.
That's that's very, I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's very important to recognize that when we work on becoming our authentic self, it does not automatically mean that everyone is going to jump on board and say, "Woohoo, you are awesome," because people are still going to have their own opinions. However, the difference is when someone comes and gives you their opinion or their verdict or their conclusion, you can either say, "Oh, they're right. I
Mm,
am a failure. I am not good enough. I am whatever the thing may be." Or you can say, "Wow, I feel really comfortable with who I am and what I'm doing. And I'm feeling very comfortable with the success that I'm having. And so I appreciate that you have an opinion, and I can value that, and I can disagree, and I'm
yeah,
still going to be okay." So this is a thing. We want people to like us. We want people to approve of us. I want you
truly.
to like me. I want you to approve of me. I really do. However, if you don't, I'm still going to be okay.
Yes.
And that's where we want to be. It doesn't mean that I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody says, because that's not true. But it
Yes.
is that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay either way. And I thought it was interesting when you mentioned, here someone says this is witchcraft. I love that there's more than one way to do things. I
Mm,
love that there's more than one approach to get a result. And
yeah.
that is so helpful because different modalities can resonate with different people. And
Uh-huh.
whatever it is, we have to be able to buy in. And so those modalities that we buy into, that is the only place that we can get help from. And
Mm,
let's just say, for example, I want to go to a medical doctor and I want to go to a psychiatrist and I want to get medication. That is where I am. That is what I want. That is absolutely fine. And that is the source you have to go to get your help. And if you are satisfied with the results, fantastic. However, if someone is not satisfied with their results, then I invite them to open your mind a little bit and just take a look around and see, well, what other ways can we do things? And is there something that could help? I like to look at healing kind of like the game Mahjong. Have you ever played that on your phone?
yes. Yes.
So, for anyone who's not familiar with this game, it's stacks of tiles that have little pictures on them, and they're all organized in this pattern of some kind. And the object of the game is to look and find matching tiles, and when you find two matching, then you remove them. And there's tiles, but you can only see what's on the very top one. And
Mm,
so each time you lift one, then there's something else revealed underneath. And to me, that's a little bit like we are affected by all of our experiences that we've had in our life. And
Mm,
not just the experiences, but the emotions that we have attached to them, and also the beliefs and conclusions that we have attached to them. And they're all affecting us, every tile on that board, but we can only see the top ones. Those
mm,
are the only ones we're aware of. Those are in our conscious mind, and they're affecting us. And the ones underneath that we can't see that are in our unconscious. And in order to really win the game and clear the board, we have to be able to access both.
mm,
And so, whatever modality you choose to use, please, listeners, pay attention that we need to be able to access all of the tiles so
mm.
that we can let them go. And it's not just turning them all over so we can see them all, because then we'd just be overwhelmed. It's
Yeah.
about finding them and letting them go.
Mm, that's so beautiful. It really is. And like I can hear someone listening, well, how do I let go? How do I let go? And it's really is simple. It's choosing to say, you know what? I am thank you for these lessons, universe. Thank you, God, for these experiences and everything. And really being able to tap into trust, because trusting that, okay, if something maybe didn't go as well, you're able to let that go because you believe something beautiful is on its way. Or if something was so amazing, maybe you're struggling to let go of a partner right now, and but and you're stuck on those amazing memories, but being able to let go is trusting that still that if you were able to receive that much good in your life, then it only gets better.
And that can be really challenging. And that's where we go back to what we talked about in the beginning, that this is not for everyone. We
Mm,
have to be able to step outside of our comfort zone, and we have to be able to allow what is really best for us. And that can be a challenge.
yes, it can. It's super challenging because it goes back to that control, because it's like if we break it down, okay, well, letting go is trust and trusting myself, but also trusting that I trusting myself enough to believe in what do I want and what do I want to be true. Because if you're healing and maybe you like me, will use me for example, when I finally said, you know what, Mary, I am starting to recognize, okay, there are areas of growth. There are ways that I can strengthen the self-love within myself. And I had to I had to one love myself enough to even say, well, what is it that you truly believe you deserve, and what do you want to feel worthy of? And so putting that out there and then trusting the process along the way to get there. And sometimes we do have to let go of people, places, jobs, situations that then become roadblocks on the way to getting there.
I loved you brought up the words worthy and deserving. And I
Mm,
think these are some of the things that are in that Mahjong analogy that are hidden, that we don't recognize. Why do I feel like I don't
yeah.
deserve? Why do I feel? Where did that come from? And being able to find that and being able to let it go. Because
Mm,
those things, you probably everyone's familiar with Brene Brown and her research. And she talked about, the one thing that separates us from feeling like we have love and belonging is whether or not we believe that we are worthy of love and belonging. And that is the only difference. It doesn't have to do with these guys are cooler than these guys. It has to do with what we believe inside. And
mhm,
particularly about, do I believe that I am worthy? And that goes back to self love. And if I don't love myself, why? Why don't I love myself? So
mm.
I love action steps. Do you have any action steps? Let's say I'm in a spot where I just have recognized, maybe I have some work to do. Maybe I need to love myself better. Maybe I could do something more to feel like I'm worthy. Do you have any action steps, any suggestions what I could do to get to the place where I want to be?
Yes, and I love that. So let's focus on worthiness, right? And believing you're worthy and believing it and what it is that you desire. So I feel called right now to say, whoever's listening to this, to bring up your desire. Bring up as if you were to speak your desire, and I know you have a huge desire in you. I feel really, really moved right now. So trust this process. If you have a huge desire that maybe you haven't spoken out loud yet, after this podcast or pause this, speak it out loud and just start to sense and feel what that brings up for you. It might feel really exciting. It might feel, oh my gosh, that's amazing hearing myself say that. Or you might feel fear, you might feel anxiety, and then it might trickle into the thoughts of, well, I'm not good enough. How is that going to happen for me? And I feel called to just really start there. Start speaking out loud. And I say speaking, not journaling it, because there is power in our voice. And if you want to take it a step further with this action step, I encourage you, and I have chills as I say this. So I encourage you to go to a friend who you trust or a partner, someone you love, and say, I am really working on myself and I'm really working on believing in myself and believing I'm worthy. Can I just share with you something, a goal, a dream that I've been really thinking about? And I just, you don't have to give me any advice or any feedback. I just really would love for you to just listen. And if you can, even get excited for me as if I'm sharing the most amazing news, and share with them what it is that you want to speak out loud, what it is that you want to share. Maybe that's something that you've been desiring. So yeah, I feel called to say as an action step, really start to speak out loud. Speak out loud your desires. Even when you're talking to a stranger and you want to speak a fun fact, speak out your desire. Oh, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And you might not, your mind might say, well, Mary, we're not actually working on this right now, but you are, because why you're working on speaking it out. So that helps the logical mind get on board. So I feel called this action step one, to kind of just circle back this around. One action step is think about where you're holding back. What is it that you want? And start to speak that out loud, and then take it a step further and start practicing speaking it to a friend, to someone else, someone in your day to day.
That's beautiful. And I know for myself, for a long time, I felt like I lost my voice. Like
Mm,
not only did I was not allowed to say what I wanted because I didn't get what I wanted and nobody cared what I wanted. So
yeah.
pretty soon I didn't even know what I wanted
Mm,
because I wasn't allowed to have desires, at least not in my heart and my mind. So
mm,
that's beautiful to just say, okay, let's speak. Let's regain our voice. Let's speak it out loud. And then give yourself permission to want. And I love that you said to do it to someone. And then
mm,
you feel seen and you feel heard, which is so important when we feel like we've lost our voice. And if
mm,
that person really can get on board and support and get excited, oh, that helps. That would help boost the confidence. So
mm.
those are beautiful things. And thank you so much. And Mary, I appreciate you visiting with me today. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
This was such a beautiful conversation, Linda. Thank you so much. And if you're listening to this, thank you. And I'm just so grateful for your beautiful podcast and your knowledge and wisdom that you're sharing with the world. So uh, thank you. I feel like it was a really beautiful conversation.
Oh, thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Emily McIntyre. She said, "Parents' words become their children's inner voices." Today, I invite our listeners to heal deeply and to let go of whatever inner voices may be holding us back from reaching our full potential. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for listening. Please share and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. And if you'd like to heal your life from the inside out, there is a free video series at hopeforhealingfoundation.org. Just click on the free stuff tab. I also invite you to grab a copy of one of my books, like Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. See you next time on Linda's Corner.